It's our pleasure to welcome now Congressman Michael Guest. He represents Mississippi's 3rd Congressional District. Congressman, good to be with you this morning. Thanks for coming on.
Gerard, good to talk to you. It was great to see you yesterday morning for a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So I know you're doing well, and it's nice to be home in Mississippi all week.
That's right. So give us the schedule. When you guys headed back? Next week, right?
So, yes, next week we will be back in session. We were able to get the reconciliation bill passed right before our memorial recess. We are voting on the wee hours of the morning. Votes. First round of votes was about midnight. The second round of votes about 2:30 a.m. Final round of votes started about 6 a.m. And so it was a late night of voting on the House side for us to be able to meet that Memorial Day deadline that the Speaker really had been pushing for. But we were successful. The bill now goes to the Senate. We know that once it gets to the Senate that they're not just going to rubber stamp the House's work product, that they're going to make changes to it. So it will probably be for the next 4 to 6 weeks over there in the Senate with them putting their fingerprints on the reconciliation bill before they send it back to us, and then we can either vote to approve the changes that they've made, or we can try to go to conference to try to work out the differences. But the goal has been July 4th, getting that bill to the President's desk. We still have a lot of work to do between now and then, but I think we've got a good framework in place. I think the House put together a good work product. It's not perfect. There were things in there that I would have liked to have seen changes, maybe larger spending cuts, maybe some of the things such as the SALT deduction not being raised to the level that it was. But overall, it was a good product, and it was a compromise trying to make sure that the Speaker had the votes from the Republican conference, knowing that we would get zero Democrat support.
And then ultimately passed by one vote.
That is correct. So we were able to get it across the finish line by a single vote. There were a couple members who were not present to vote that said that they would have voted to support the bill.
Okay.
If those members would have been there, we would have had a 3-vote majority, but still very near majority. No Democrat support. 2 Republicans voted against the measure. Thomas Massey from Kentucky, Warren Davidson from Ohio, their lack of support was they did not think that the spending cuts went far enough. And then Dr. Harris from Maryland, he voted present. And so we were able to get it by a very narrow margin. But look, that was the goal. Hey, advance it to the Senate. Let's see what the Senate can do with it. And then we know that the President will weigh in because this is his top priority.
Yeah, and you're right, because I've been tracking the sentiments in the U.S. Senate. I know you're well aware of this. There are a handful, by my last count, about 5 on the Republican side that right now say they're a no for various reasons.
That's right. Some think that the cuts don't go far enough. Others are concerned with some of the changes, particularly the Medicaid SNAP. So you have people on various factions right now opposed to the bill. The hope is that, once they start looking at it, they'll make the changes that they need to get the votes over there. And then we know the President will come in as the ultimate closer to try to get House Republicans, Senate Republicans together on a final bill that we can get across the finish line. And look, this bill is important because if we don't do anything, if we pass nothing, tax rates go up at the end of the year.
Right.
Anyone who makes more than $12,000 will see that the tax bracket, the rate that they pay in their bracket, will increase. We know that the standard deduction, which is taken by roughly 90% of Americans who file taxes, that the standard deduction will be cut in half. The child tax credit, which many people with children claim, that child tax credit will be reduced. And so if we do nothing, failure really is not an option, because what we ultimately would allow to happen is the largest tax increase in American history. And so that's why this is important, because we've got to make sure that we are fulfilling those campaign promises, that we're keeping taxes as low as possible while still being able to fund the government. And there was some additional spending in there, which I know you're aware of, Gerard, additional border spending for wall construction, personnel, technology. Military spending was also included in there to try to break that parity that you generally see in the appropriations process, that if you increase defense spending, you have to increase social program spending, and so we broke that by tying that defense spending directly into this bill, and then also raising the debt ceiling, which is something that we know has to happen at some point in the future going forward. We'll probably hit that debt ceiling sometime late this summer. I think August is roughly the latest projections, and so again, those are important pieces or components of this bill, and failure really is not an option. The question is going to be, what does the final work product look like once the Senate has a chance to make adjustments, and then when we come back together to try to hash out any disagreements that exist between the House and Senate.
Yeah. So talk to us about border security, because I know there's an increase in funding for that. You serve as subcommittee chairman on border security and enforcement. What do you see this money being used for?
Yeah, and first I want to say, look, the president has done an amazing job. We've seen the numbers dropped exponentially since the president has taken office. You know, Joe Biden was trying to tell the American public that to secure the border, we needed new authorities, so we needed new laws, and ultimately we just needed a president who was willing to enforce the existing laws. And we know that the president came in very aggressively with executive orders, declaring a national emergency on the border, ending the catch and release program, reinstating Remain in Mexico, surging resources, and we've seen border numbers drop by 90%. In some cases, depending on what sector, 90 to 95% in various sectors across the southwest border. So the numbers have dropped to something that we have not seen in decades. But this funding would allow us to continue to keep the pressure on the border. There's money in there for wall construction, roughly 700 new miles of wall construction. Water barriers. We know that the Rio Grande River runs there along the southwest border, and so it would allow the installation of water barriers to keep people from being able to quickly move from one side of the river to the other. Technology, particularly for our ports of entry, to be able to better scan vehicles, both passenger and commercial, that are coming through looking for particularly narcotics that are smuggled in those vehicles. Some infrastructure improvements, particularly some of the roads there and some of the very remote areas of the border are very hard to access, so we need to come in some areas either fix roads or create roads that don't exist. Personnel, and then also some things, just simple things like new vehicles. The fleet there at the Border Patrol that they use aging vehicles. They put a lot of wear and tear on those vehicles going in some very remote areas. And so we're investing there in the fleet that those officers will be using. So we actually, the reconciliation instructions allowed us to spend up to $90 billion. We ended up spending slightly over 69. And so we actually did not spend as much money as the bill authorized our committee to. We tried to, again, be very targeted in where this money would be spent and make sure that we were providing law enforcement the resources that they need, but at the same time being wary that we did not want to add to the growing deficit by spending more money than necessary. So I think we put together a good package in the Homeland Security Committee that was included there in the final budget reconciliation package.
Yeah, it's, just the president, since he's been elected, Congressman, when he just conveyed the message really to the world, hey, don't come here illegally. There are going to be consequences. Our borders are closed. And he was serious about it. It wasn't the tongue-in-cheek communication coming from Secretary Mayorkas in the prior administration. Like immediately after that, we saw the crossings drop to almost none.
You're exactly right. You kind of saw a surge right there kind of at the end of the Biden administration, and then we quickly saw those numbers drop to, again, historic lows. And that was because people believe what President Trump was saying, that the border was not open, that if you wanted to come to the country, there is a legal pathway to be able to come to the country to work through a green card or work visa program. There is a process if someone wants to become a United States citizen.
Yeah.
But that process is not you sneak across the border in the dead of night, you claim asylum, and then you get to stay here for 5+ years until your court date. The process is, hey, you applied there at the embassy. There are background checks. There's vetting. We're not, being Republicans, we're not against all immigration.
Right.
We just want to make sure that people know we're against illegal immigration.
We got a break. Can you hang with us?
Yes, sir. We'd love to.
Okay, great. We got Congressman Michael Guest coming right back. Middays, we're visiting with Congressman Michael Guest. So there's been a lot of talk about possibly rolling back some spending that was previously approved, known as rescissions, Congressman. Tell us about the prospect of incorporating those in either this bill, if there's any there, or future budgets, future appropriations.
What we've been talked to during the conversations with the administration, we have been told that once the House was able to get the reconciliation bill passed, that we could expect a rescissions package coming from the White House. And so this would be standalone from the reconciliation bill. And the way that the rescissions work is it kind of uses that same procedure as reconciliation, in that you only need 50 votes in the Senate.
Okay.
But the process is the White House sends to Congress a list of rescissions that they would like for Congress to address. Then that is put into a rescissions package. And the rescissions package would then take those DOGE cuts that have already been made, and at that point, at this point, the money that DOGE has found, that money has been impounded, which means it's been appropriated for those agencies, but not yet spent. And so to pull that money back, to claw that money back, so the agencies no longer have those funds available, we can do that through the rescissions package, 50 votes in the Senate, so we don't have to worry about a filibuster in the Senate, simple majority in the House. We expect that once those requests have been sent, that we can start working on that, hopefully as soon as next week. It should not be near as lengthy. It should not be as time-consuming a process as the reconciliation. Of course, we can build in those cuts as we look and we're going forward through the appropriations process. But if the White House sends it over, if we follow that template that's been laid out, it allows us to circumvent the filibuster rule in the Senate, and would allow these cuts to happen with only a 50-vote majority there in the Senate, and again, a simple majority of our members in the House.
So I know some members on both sides have complained about the budget package not going far enough as far as repealing lots of the Green New Deal provisions that pretty much dominated the so-called Inflation Reduction Act. Would they also be included in this potentially? Some of these tax credits and stuff for some investments or some spending that is deemed as fighting climate change?
Yeah, I mean, some of the spending definitely included. Again, what's going to be sent over to us is going to be at the discretion of the White House. And so we're not going to be able to just draft the things that we want to be rescinded. Now, we could do legislation along that lines, but it would then require a 60-vote majority there in the Senate to get past the filibuster. So we're going to be looking at whatever is sent over by the White House. Some of the DOGE cuts have been one-time contracts, which have been canceled. So, actions such as that would not necessarily require the House and the Senate to vote on those. But any lasting cuts, such as cuts to USAID and others, some of the Inflation Reduction Act grants, as far as energy grants for renewables, many of those have been addressed in the reconciliation bill. So they may not be directed, they may not be addressed in the rescissions package, but they're being addressed in the reconciliation bill. So we've got a couple of different bills moving forward hopefully simultaneously, once we get those requests from the White House, that will then begin codifying some of the spending reductions that we have to have if we're going to be able to get out of this debt crisis that we see our country in.
Yeah. And, of course, a lot of what Musk and the DOGE team found really don't require any action by the Congress. We just need to clean up the systems, the processes, sometimes the organizational structure and the people to enable those changes.
That's exactly right. Some of the things are more structural in nature. Others are one-time contracts, which can be canceled by the agencies. They don't have to come to Congress and get congressional approval. And so when people say that none of the cuts are being codified, many of the cuts don't have to be codified, don't need to be. But those that are, we do expect the White House to send that forward to us, and we hopefully can start getting to work on that when we get back next week.
Sounds good. I know the American people look forward to that, and we always enjoy having you on the program, Congressman. Thanks so much for coming on. Please say hello to your beautiful family. Thank you, sir.
Yep, good talking to you. Thanks, Gerard. Have a great day.
You too, man. We're stepping aside for a break. It's time for Fox